welcome back. How was your lunch? Good, yes, I can ask that. Great, I can ask that. What do you do if you're out and your guide dog gets the runs? Can I ask that? What about this ADHD thing? Isn't that just an excuse not to do things? Like, isn't that just a fad? Can I ask that? Well, I can ask all of these questions this afternoon in our next session, in our panel. You can ask that. We are going to come to this next 50 minutes with curiosity, and we are going to give ourselves, rip off the band-aids and ask the questions about accessibility that we've always wanted to, but we were too afraid to ask. Before I remind you about these three incredible people behind me, I would like to take a moment, excuse me, Kobi, for standing in front of you. I'd like to take a moment to appreciate the lands on which we're meeting today, the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay respects to their elders, past and present. I do wonder that if our first colonies came with more curiosity and asked more questions, if our history would be vastly different. And we would have a deep understanding that this always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Woo! Yes, yeah, thank you.
Ask more questions.
Ask more questions. We're going to do that for the next 50 minutes. And we're going to have a little bit of fun. Now, I want to be honest. I sat down to write the introduction to this panel. And I was like, okay, I want to talk about how incredible these three people are on the stage with me, but not because they have accessibility needs, but no, that was going to sound patronising, so I chucked it. And then I thought, okay, I will tell a story about a friend of mine in high school who had cerebral palsy and what he taught me about accessibility before it was even a conversation. And then I thought, no, that would be virtue signaling, so I chucked that. And then I thought, okay, I will just talk about disability and the state of the game. And then I was like, but hang on, but what does neurodiversity come under disability? And what's the arch? And what does accessibility mean? Hang on, I don't want to say the wrong thing, because if I say the wrong thing, it will be offensive. But if I don't say something, will that be offensive? And that was the moment that I realized that we really need this panel. Because as Kelly said this morning, if we don't ask the questions, if we don't keep ourselves curious, we can't move forward together. We really got to get comfortable in the discomfort. So we're going to do that today. Up on the screen, you will see that there is a QR code. This is how we are going to, I hope it works. Yes, there it is. There is a QR code for you to scan. This is an opportunity to ask anything anonymously. And we are going to discuss it with a whole lot of fun and frivolity up here on the stage.
Ma'am.
If operating a QR code is not the way you like to work, that's cool too. We have a microphone that will be wandering around that you can ask your question live. That's the official stuff. Please welcome back to the stage these three remarkable humans, Pat, Kobi, and Kelly, and Velvet. Excuse me. I love that I'm finally been upstaged by Velvet. I'll just take a spot here on the ground while Velvet has the cushy place on the couch. That's fine, Velvet, no worries. You just make yourself cozy. All right, so we're going to kick this off. As you are writing in your questions, I already have one. And this question is one for Kelly. We talked about this earlier. I feel like as a culture, we're getting our head around some of the language uses in some of the other areas that we need to spruce up our language in, right? We are starting to make sure that things are gender neutral. We're starting to change language that is culturally inappropriate. So the question I have for you is about the word disability. What does that mean? Where does that sit? To use or not to use? That's the question.
It's actually a really big question.
Is it?
Because disability, the short version, TLDR, disability is not a dirty word. But, okay, language is, the thing about language is the language is actually one of the things that stops people from actually talking about it. It actually paralyzes people into going, I don't know what I can say, therefore I'm not going to say anything. And that's almost worse, that we've created this environment where language, people are so scared to actually use language. Disability has been reclaimed by the disability community, as has the word disabled. So a lot of the time, people first language was the thing, certainly was back 10 years ago. It was people with disability. You can't call them disabled people because you put the disability first. That's not the case anymore because we actually talk more about identity language now. And people get to choose. Honestly, people get to choose how they want to be talked about. Blind to one person is vision impaired to another.
Yeah.
And some people will still choose person with autism, while the autistic community is going, no, I'm autistic because it's me. I'm not a person with autism, my autism is me. And so there's so many different languages out there and different choices of words. I think this is part of that problem I identified earlier, where language is preventing people from saying anything because they're scared of getting it wrong. I like to think that if your intent is in the right place and you're not being, condescending, or you're not actually being mean with your language, that you should feel free to try language out and see what reaction you get, but also mirror the people you're talking to and use their language. But know that there are some outdated terms and language does change. Like, I know this is a long answer to your question, but when I'm not from Melbourne and I can't stand the word grouse.
You can't stand grouse?
It is so weird.
Really?
It's just a weird word. And so
Grouse.
when I came, I'm like, I'm not using that. But I also probably think that grouse isn't cool anymore either. So, language evolves, right? And let's actually all use it. Back to Kobi's point about communication, that's how we figure it out, is actually by using it.
So the best idea is to ask or use it and see how it lands?
Yeah.
And you said that there were some outdated terms. What is there any that
Certainly euphemisms.
Right, okay.
So differently abled, for example. If you're using a euphemism for disability, you're not going to be popular. Even things like handicapped would be quite known to be outdated in Australia now, but are actually still quite common in other languages. Even the term visually impaired versus vision impaired is the Australian choice. Visually impaired is still used quite commonly in America. But to me, visually impaired means you look impaired. And maybe that's true. Maybe I am visually impaired.
You're right, yeah. I'd never thought about it, but you're right. Yeah, I think there is that real, I feel like as society now we've become very aware of the language that we use. I certainly know from my lens, you suddenly start to become aware of the words that you're saying. So there does feel like there's this disjunct about not wanting to be offensive, don't want to be offensive, this sort of place that we sit. But I think...
Do you know what I said to Nikhil the other day?
What's that?
I really need to hear your voice in this.
Yeah. But isn't it interesting when we start to become aware of it too, where we're like, oh, actually, hang on. Yeah. I've got some incredible questions coming in. Kobi, can I throw one to you?
Sure.
And Pat, you've got one coming up next too. This is around storytelling, right? How can storytelling be leveraged to foster empathy and drive accessibility initiatives?
That's a really good.
Is it a good question? Do you want some thinking time? Because I'm just going to tell you that I'm getting so many look at you on the ground looks from Velvet. She is just like side-eyeing me, being like, how is it down there? Cheeky lady. Storytelling. How can we use storytelling?
Well, it's funny that question has come to me because I don't feel like a particularly good storyteller.
No?
Even participating in this event, that was quite terrifying for me, trying to figure out, how do I tell something that is personal but has a narrative to it and a point and has takeaways, and I'm so used to, in my daily work life, talking about, technical things and things that aren't personal. So, it was quite challenging for me. But honestly, based on the feedback I've had from some of you people today, it seems that authenticity and just talking from your own personal experience, being genuine in what you have to share, being open and interested in what other people have to share back with you. I think that's all really important part of storytelling. But also, maybe giving people examples or tangible things that they can connect to your ideas. That's something that I often forget to do because I'm all up in my brain all the time and I forget that other people haven't gone along on that roller coaster ride with me. So I might have thought 100 things and said 2 of them. So I think it's more about, connecting those ideas to tangible things that people can take with them.
Connecting the ideas. I guess the link of humanity, right? We've
Yeah.
spoken about a lot today is about this. Actually, it's not about accessibility. It's about humanity. It's not about me and you. It's about an us.
Exactly.
Yeah, I really like that.
Trudi.
Pat, I have a question for you. This next question is asking someone, what is your disability rude? And how can you politely ask if you're curious and wanting to see how to accommodate?
That's a funny one. I myself, as somebody with a disability, get uncomfortable asking somebody else what their disability is sometimes.
Ah, interesting.
And I mean, I need to remind myself that I can't even see something that other people might be able to with their disability. But I think it all depends on how people ask these things. If it's in, a really blunt, I don't know, rude sort of way, I think it's a really inappropriate question. But if you're asking out of a curious place, an innocent, curious place that there's no bad intent there, I think it's best to ask.
Yep.
And usually you can read people enough to kind of know if it's going to fly beforehand. But my view on asking is I think it's best to ask anything that you're curious about instead of just assuming or putting it together in your own head. I think it's best to ask and see what that person prefers.
And can I, seeing we're in this Ask Anything panel, about that, I often notice, the Paralympics is, and it's like almost like there's an assumption sometimes that because you've got a disability, you'll get on with other people who have disabilities. Do you know what I mean? It's like this pool of disability.
Know each other.
Whereas, yeah, if you put me in a room full of blondes, I wouldn't know what to say to them all or get on with them all. Is that a thing, or is anyone can answer that?
In a little way. Like, I think some people can definitely assume that, if you're disabled, you're part of this big disabled community, and that I would know. I've had so many people, like taxi drivers, for example, say, "Oh, do you know such and such?" Like, no? Oh, he's blind. I'll pick him up too. It's like, Newcastle's a pretty big city. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah. So really just, it depends, right? Once again, it's the human element. Yep,
Yeah.
cool. I've got one, it's actually a question for Velvet, but seeing as she's just like living the lap of luxury behind me here, while I'm her footmaid, Kelly, this is, how is it bringing Velvet into the office, and are your employees supportive?
So I've never had I've had a guide dog for 12 or 13 years now, and I've never had a problem with the office. Actually, the office itself is fine, but I'm also someone who gets what they want. This may surprise some of you.
But you're so quiet and was...
But the thing that I'm really conscious of is that I'm not there to traumatize anyone either. So my dogs work hard and they play hard, which often has meant that they've had free rein in an office. But I'm also conscious that there are people who are scared of dogs and don't like dogs and don't want to be approached by a dog, particularly one that might appear under a desk at your feet. And so I'm super conscious of that as well. We're all trying to get along. Employer and employee-wise, I've never had any issues. But I also think there's an issue there where also people are afraid to say anything because they think they can't say anything because it's a person with a disability with a guide dog. Well, my guide dog is quite happy tied to her bed and not moving because she sleeps for 22 hours a day. So that's also fine. So I think people also have this fear of going, oh, I don't want to say anything about the dog. The same as the receptionists who didn't tell me when my guide dog peed at reception because they didn't want to say anything. I'm like,
They just cleaned it up around you?
they just cleaned it up and didn't say anything. So they said we still need to know. Like, it's not and I'm not going to be offended if someone says, actually, I really don't like your dog coming over to my desk. I'm like, I'm really sorry she does that. Do you have bananas by any chance? Because that's what's going to do it. I suggest you bring them into the office.
We are learning so much. Okay, I have another question. Actually, this one's for Pat. Kobi, you got a question coming. And I was guilty of this, actually, in the coaching. I was picked up, thank you, Ronnie. He picked me up on my need for education in this area. Can you explain a little more about the different levels of low vision versus no vision? I'd love to learn more about the different visual tools and assists for the different levels, like sunglasses.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been losing my vision over 25 years, and my different accessibility needs have changed dramatically throughout that period. When I was first starting to go blind, I mean, I could still see enough to get around without a cane or a guide dog or anything like that. I would use a magnifying glass to read books, or a little monoscope thing to read the board at school. Things like that. Magnification is huge. For my eye condition, I have trouble distinguishing different colors. So brighter, more, I guess, higher contrast and things like that with color is huge. But as I went more blind, learning technology was huge, because magnifying glass doesn't cut it, and either does my little monocle or high contrast colors. So a screen reader is definitely what I would say is the biggest thing for a blind person. That, and it's a funny view, but a lot of people, including myself, think that Braille is a bit of a dying art. And then I realized as I got older that it's so important. Braille teaches you the English language. It teaches you spelling, sentence structures, and all of that, like all of the important stuff that I neglected throughout school. And then realized when I had to start typing emails that I couldn't spell. And when you're listening with a screen reader, it doesn't pick up on a lot of that thing. It'll tell you if you've spelled something wrong, but punctuation and a lot of that sort of thing you don't pick up on. So Braille's huge, screen readers, and then, yeah, there's so many other things. Sunglasses. I mean, do you mean normal sunglasses?
I don't know. It's a question that came in. I mean, I would imagine so. From what I understand, there is always a range of visibility from low to none, right?
Mhm.
I'm a real geek for blind handball soccer. If you've never experienced it, do yourselves a favor. It's phenomenal. So I was learning about, during the Paralympics, the levels of vision.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes people without lived experience, we will often be like, oh, they're blind, but are you blind? Because you seem to see some things, and there's that grey area.
There's that great line that says, oh, when my grandpa doesn't have his glasses on, he's as blind as you are. Well, I'm not sure about that.
Make sure he keeps wearing his glasses.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. So once again, there needs to be this awareness of vision impaired can be at levels, right?
Yeah, like I was diagnosed legally blind when I was 7 or 8 years old, but I didn't need a cane, I didn't need a guide dog or anything like that. I think, yeah, it varies so much. I definitely think if you see someone with a guide dog or a cane, you can't assume they can't see anything at all. It's going to change so much from person to person, and it goes back to the whole thing of asking.
Yeah, of asking. Suddenly remembered I used to work at a pub, and there was a guy who came in who was legally blind, and they kept saying to him, it's time for a cane or a guide dog, and he'd be like, dogs stink and I don't need a stick. And he'd come in, and every so often you'd come in, you'd be like, oh, Henry, and he'd have like smashed nose or whatever, and and he was just like, nah, I can do it, and sure enough he did. He bumped his way through his entire life, even though everybody was saying, please get some assistance. He was great. Just a little.
That's a very stubborn way to live your life.
Oh, he was so stubborn. And that's what I mean. He'd come in with more and more cuts on his nose got flatter and flatter, and we'd all be like, Henry, get a dog.
I refused to use a cane until about 20 years old, and I was walking through a very dark, nice restaurant, quite a fancy restaurant, and absolutely nailed someone's wine stand because I didn't. And wine went everywhere. Obviously, I didn't see it. But those people that it was their wine, they didn't understand that. And I realized there and then I need to carry something that shows people that I'm blind, because you can make these mistakes that are so genuine of a mistake, but they look terrible if people can't tell that you're blind. So,
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah.
Wow, very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Kobi, here comes one for you. It's about the term neurospicy. Seems to be a common term thrown around online. Can't tell if it's minimizing the problem or helping people speak about their neurodivergence in a colloquial way. Can it be both? What do you think? I love the word neurospicy, but
I think it can be both. I think it comes down to the person that you're talking to and the person that you're talking about. Personally, I don't have a problem if someone uses it about me. I probably wouldn't use it about myself just because it's not my vibe. I like to be explicit. Shocking. So yeah, but I do know that there are all schools of thought around that. There are people who think that it is quite reductive, who think that it's a little bit, making a joke out of something. But then there are people who think it's a bit of a gateway term to start exploring other things around neurodivergence. So whatever works for you and the people that you're talking to.
yep. And I think it feels like it's a bit like anything. There are always these differing opinions. I mean, it was said very eloquently by all of you today about each person has their own comfort levels of what they like to use and what works for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Got another question. Here we go. Excuse me, have my glasses, but I'm refusing to put them on. Because I'm just as blind as you, Kelly, and I don't have my glasses on. No, I'm not. Here we go. Here's a quick one. Is it okay to pat a guide dog on the street? Oh, no, the audience are heckling from the audience. No, it's not. I agree.
Does it have its human?
Does it have its human? Well, I would imagine so. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Is it okay to pat anyone's dog on the street?
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what we teach our kids. Don't pat any dogs via the run up and by.
Don't pat any dogs on the street, let alone don't pat a guide dog. And I think, yes, I have a, young dog patter, and we do say they're working, right? Velvet, I mean, look at her. She's working so hard right now. She's like, whew, she's fitzing. No worries. You just chillax there, lady. All right, so here's a few more questions. Ooh, okay. I'm going to throw this one to all three of you because I think it's a lovely question. What is the golden nugget that we could apply every day as designers that would help all the different abilities within our products? I'm going to put that to the open floor. While you have a little bit of thinking time, I was thinking about this the other day. With a range of accessibility needs, is there a universal combination?
So are we answering your question or their?
Oh, their question. Sorry, answer their question. The golden nugget that we could apply every day as designers that would help all the different abilities within our products.
I can start.
Go on.
I think it's actually a question of have I designed this for me? So the easiest thing for you to do is to design in the mirror. And I think if you look at how you are going to have that experience, then you've not done enough. And there is no all abilities question.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. Because we're all so diverse, right?
Yes, yes.
So golden nugget, probably not. But if you've designed it in the mirror.
I like it.
I think having starting, like when you're starting to design something, is you need to work with people that have accessibility needs. I think would be the golden nugget, like to design it collaborating with people that are going to be using it. Otherwise, you're designing it with, like we spoke about earlier, a checklist of these different rules and regulations, but doesn't make it usable. It's accessible, but it's not usable. So I think it's got to be like a collaborative design process, I think, for it to truly work.
All voices, right?
Mm.
Collaboration. I feel that is the key, right the way
I
along.
feel like the problem with all of that, though, is that it doesn't answer the question of how do I do it for everybody because I can't do everything all at once. And that becomes actually the real designer's problem is I can't do everything at once. But guess what? We get that. It's actually okay. And I think to Pat's point, you've got to start somewhere. And if you're starting with experiences that aren't your own, I think the one thing you can do every day, though, is actually go, whose experience am I going to learn from today? Go pick a new experience and actually have some curiosity about other people. It doesn't even have to relate to what you're designing at the moment, but who has a different experience of life that I want to learn from today? Like pick a new one every day or pick a new one every week. God, I love an internet rabbit hole. Like, has anyone, like rabbit holes on YouTube in particular are so much fun. Do you know how many videos there are about boiling water on YouTube? Like, so go down a rabbit hole, like pick a rabbit hole once a week to learn about other people's experiences and maybe start there and just open up your world.
There was a really interesting thing that actually you said to me, Kelly, along the journey.
Oh, here we go.
And it was about leaving doors ajar. No, it wasn't about It was about, we were talking and I said, are there any questions that you would prefer me not to ask? And she said, you can ask any question. Whether I choose to answer it or not is up to me. And I really love that because it gave me the permission to explore. Because you're right, I've never thought about that. I've taken it. It's now a life motto of mine. I say, you can ask me anything. It's my choice if I answer it. And that has really helped.
Well, it goes back to that being offended by questions things. I'm not offended by the question because you're asking it out of a place of curiosity. It's whether I choose to answer it or not, or I might choose to deflect it or suggest that you ask it in another way. Same as how many people use screen readers. I'm not going to answer that question. I'm going to help you ask a better question.
Which I think is fantastic. That feels like a gateway forward. Kobi, I have another one for you. Here we go.
Okay.
Could you share with us your experience of going from masking to unmasking in the workplace? And what was that like? Because I imagine that was quite a journey for you.
Yeah. I mean, look, I still wouldn't say that I'm completely unmasked in the workplace. There are definitely times where I'm still fitting into a box somewhat so that I can try and engage with someone on a certain level. And maybe that's just my experience because I work in digital accessibility. So I'm careful not to constantly be like, oh, I'm autistic ADHD, because A, it's not all about that. It's not all about me. But also, I don't want it to come from that place of you have to listen to me because I'm speaking with authority. It's more about, engaging with people and getting them to understand that humans all have different and varied experiences. So if I remember the question correctly about masking, in short, I'm not unmasked all the time, but I have a better understanding of when I am and am not masking, and I can choose to do that now. I can choose to mask when I feel that it would be beneficial for me or the person that I'm connecting with. But I'm aware that I'm doing that, and then I can take the necessary steps afterwards to, make sure that I'm replenishing my energies and recovering from whatever circus show I just had to perform for someone. So thanks.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I answered that question, but that's honestly my thoughts on masking in the workplace.
Yeah, thank you. It feels like there's some things come out, like choice seems to be an ongoing, curiosity seems to be an ongoing thing, connection seems to be an ongoing theme that seems to keep popping up through all of this. And when we talk about it, it seems so easy, and yet, we still feel like there's a bit of Mount Everest to climb.
Pat and I aren't allowed to climb Mount Everest.
Not yet, my friends, not yet.
No, not actually.
Oh, no, not actually
No, blind
at all.
people have been banned from Mount Everest.
Shut up.
That's ableist.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Why? I mean,
It's probably because they die. I don't know.
But isn't that your choice? Can't you choose to climb Mount Everest and die if you want to?
absolutely. And there's people who like there was the little Sherpa man who had like many, many, many things, surely on his back, like levels and levels and levels.
Be able to carry me.
Not carrying you, but if he can do it with all of those levels on his back, surely you can do it.
Sorry, we've gone off on
We have gone up on a tangent. Sorry,
I just not at the point
pub.
that we're not climbing Everest, we're not allowed.
I'm going to invest. That's my YouTube hole for tonight. I'm going down to find out exactly why that came about, because surely that can change. Pat,
I don't want to climb Everest. Pat might.
I'm throwing to you, Pat. If you could climb Mount Everest in the next couple of years, I'd be really appreciative.
I actually had been planning on it in the last couple of years.
Do it, Pat.
I mean, it's not illegal, right? To climb it.
Well, this is what we might now be. I will get back to you, Pat. I will fall down a YouTube poll for you, and I will email you the rules and regulations about climbing Mount Everest.
I think that's crazy. People can't stop you from doing something because you're blind. I think, yeah, particularly as an adult, you've got the choice of whatever you want to do.
I think that about driving too, quite frankly.
Yep. I have all faith in Velvet, though, who's back there snoring her head off. Occasionally I was like, what is that noise? Velvet. Listen, we're here today to talk about accessibility in organisations and design and how we can move this world forward and educate us all to become a more accessible world. This question is around that. Encouraging businesses toward accessible design because it is the right thing is a nice idea, that I agree with, but is it naive to think that we don't need to justify it through numbers and dollars? I'm going to throw that open to the floor because I think that's a big question.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly,
I feel you wanting to go.
I've got an answer for
Kelly
it.
bristling beside me.
I think it comes back to value creation, which is kind of what I was trying to allude to earlier, is value creation is what we're talking about. Businesses don't only create value through dollars, they create value in lots and lots and lots of ways. So I think it's actually a naive organisation that thinks the only value they create is dollars and shareholders. And honestly, I don't want to work with them because they're not interested, they're not ready yet. When you start talking about value creation and what has value for a business, then absolutely, you do need numbers, you do need data, but you've got to make sure that you're measuring the right thing.
Yep.
That's always the case. Anyone who's ever worked in a contact centre knows that you don't, measure people on their wrap time, because all they then do is put people on hold. And then you measure them on their hold time, and so what they do is they put themselves on mute so that they're not covering their hold time. Those sorts of stats beget behaviour.
Yeah.
So let's measure the right things for accessibility, and don't ask me what they are because I don't know. That's the logical question. I don't know the answer to it off the top of my head. But find out what the right things to measure are and talk about it in a value creation way, from a customer satisfaction, a potential acquisition percentage of the population, whatever that might be, and figure out what those stats are. So I don't have a problem with numbers and data at all. I just think if you're reducing it to dollars, you're not having the right conversation.
Okay.
Preach.
Yeah. Mic drop. Shaboom.
Yeah.
All right. I love it. I have two final questions before we end our panel, and these are for all of you to answer. The first one is, what question do you wish people would ask? What is the question that you wish people would ask you? That is the first one for you all to respond to. Like some thinking time.
Some music.
Some music. While you do that, I'm going to stand for a moment. You comfy, Velvet? Good. Don't mind me.
I think for me, the biggest question that I appreciate when someone asks is, do you want a hand, or do you need anything from me? Because it's not assuming that you need help. It's not forcing help or anything like that. It's asking, would you like a hand? And that's really helpful, because more often than not, I'm going to say no. I'm too stubborn to take people's help. But in the off chance that I do need help, someone's offered, and you can accept that. It's definitely makes life easier. And if people offer, a lot of people tend to assume you need help or don't need help and force the help on you or whatever the situation is. And that just makes things so much worse sometimes. So
Mm.
yeah, asking.
Asking and not being offended if you say no. I think there's that.
Mm.
Not being afraid to ask if somebody needs help, but also not being okay if somebody just goes, nah, you're okay. Yep. Great. Thank you. Kobi, what do you wish people would ask?
I think it goes back to what I was saying in my talk, where I wish that we would all just ask each other, what do you need to thrive? Like, I was having a great conversation with Patrick actually about how, if it's very much in our society, it's an us versus them, me versus you kind of situation, where if somebody else is getting something, it's taking away from something that I have. Whereas if we kind of all approach this like, we're all in it together, what can I do to lift you up? And here's what you can do to lift me up. I think we'd all just be having a much better time in this world.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Ellie?
I can't really improve on Pat's answer, but the one thing I would say is don't be so quick to ask. Take some time to listen. Because actually listening and observing and being present for people to understand what their experience is without having to jump in and try and fix stuff or go to solution mode or just asking more questions isn't necessarily always the best thing to do. Have a listen. Try and use that a little bit more to understand beyond what Pat already said.
Okay, lovely. Thank you. And our final question before we wrap up. What is the most joyful thing about disability? Come on, let's talk fun things. What's the most joyful thing? Other than a snoring dog because she's made her presence felt.
For me, it's brought so many incredible opportunities into my life. Things that I know wouldn't have been put in front of me if I was sighted. Things like the Paralympic skiing, that obviously wouldn't have happened if I could see. No way I'd be good enough of a ski racer to be able-bodied in Australia.
Yeah.
So stuff like that, like certain jobs, certain opportunities come forward with disabilities. And that's because so many people in this world are aware and want to help you and let you enjoy your life like people without a disability. So I think it does present opportunities that other people don't get.
Yeah, I agree. I have heard a remarkable amount of people who have come to disability, say through accidents or whatever. And this is through, so I did some face painting for the Paralympians in Sydney 2000. And so many of them were saying, oh, best thing that could have happened to me was that car accident. Oh, best thing, because I have found an element of myself. I have found a life for myself that I would never have found were it not for this moment in my life. And I remember that so profoundly, of this great joy and gratitude, which I think a lot of people assume that doesn't occur, but there was many great things about that, right? I'm highly envious. Even last night, Pat, you caught the sound of something and I was like, I was so envious. Incredible skill to be like, there's two of those. And I was like straining my ear. Yeah, great. Thank you. Kobi, Kelly?
I personally don't identify as disabled, so I'll answer this as what's the most joyous thing about being autistic, ADHD.
Yes.
Yes.
Apologies.
No, that's fine. That's fine. And for me, it's definitely been about having that understanding of myself and almost like a certified stamp of weirdness. Like I used to feel like I was a broken person in the world, and now I feel like I am exactly the person that I'm supposed to be, and I just understand that the world wasn't necessarily made for people like me. So yeah, I think it's been quite joyous to go on that journey and to understand so much more about myself and how I fit in the world, and able to have empathy for myself, which also means that I'm able to have a lot more empathy for other people too. So behaviors that used to frustrate me because I couldn't understand why would that person be doing that. Now I have this whole new toolkit of lenses where I'm like, oh, maybe there's, heaps of different reasons why that person does that. And actually, does it affect me? No, not really. So yeah, I think that's probably been the most joyous thing, figuring out my place in the world.
I think that's really beautiful.
Thanks.
And you just, Yeah, and I just think you just said that the world wasn't designed for you.
Yeah.
Yet. Yes. Once Pat conquers Everest next year, the world's got to change. Yeah. Yet. So that's a beautiful answer. Thank you. Kelly?
Do I come across as particularly joyful? I'm not sure about that.
Hilarious.
I do have a lot of fun though. Because I always say, I think the first thing on my LinkedIn says I'm here for my own entertainment. And what that means is I'm actually really entertained by the little things, like making people put their hands up when I design those little things, because it is entertaining and it allows me to make disability approachable in some way that can help actually make things better. So in some ways I get the joy out of that. And being able to have conversations like this is a privilege. It's entertaining. It's a privilege. Is it joyful? I don't know. I don't know that I do joyful. I'm really going. But there's lots of fun stuff. There's lots of stories to tell of things particularly things that have gone wrong that you can laugh about later. Things that just haven't worked, and it's just a comedy of errors. I love being able to go, you know what? No, I'm totally blind. I'm not doing that, and just sort of opt out of things when other people are expecting you to do things. Someone will tell you that occasionally I become deafblind because I don't want to participate in whatever conversation's going on. So I'm just here, and that stuff actually really amuses me. So just have fun with it. And I think it's interesting. I just want to call out that bit about acquiring disability versus having disability from birth. So I've been blind my whole life, and so I don't have this amazing change story. Like, it's really interesting that so many inspirational speakers that you see with disability are often people who have a change story because they've had that epiphany of, oh, dude, that car accident was the best thing that ever happened to me. All kinds of story, where the people who have been doing it their whole life are just doing it.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that those inspirational stories tend to come from overcoming change. And so I think there's also this thing that disability is actually still hard and still complicated and still has a lot of accessibility barriers in the world. And while there's lots of joyful moments, and I never want to take that away from people, there's also a lot of hard stuff. So I think when you are dealing with a lot of stuff that's hard and harder than it should be, and we can't make comparisons because that's just not fair. You can't compare one disability to another and what's harder than another. But when there's the hard stuff, I think you actually find more joy in the simple things.
Yeah.
The things that actually work, the accessible experiences that designers create that make something easy to do. Like, it's actually the simple joy sometimes. The joy for me when a taxi driver doesn't refuse to take us and I get to an appointment on time. I can't tell you how often it happens that we get that discrimination. So I can find pleasure in lots of little things.
Do you think, interestingly, last question for you, Kelly, just to riff off that, as you say, we have our inspirational speakers that are often the ones who tell the story of change, and then we have people like yourselves who are born with a disability. Do you think we need to hear from more people? Do you think we need to find the inspiration from more people who were born with a disability? Like, what?
Like I said, you can't compare. There's no comparison. I think we need to take a little bit of a look about what we're inspired by for a start. Disability isn't inspiration porn, because it's just not. But we do need to think about who we're hearing from and find out, be more diverse in who you're hearing from. And that's my whole point earlier about find the people who may not actually generally have a stage to do this on. Like, this is a real privilege to have a stage and to have a platform to talk about this, but there are disabilities that are not represented in this stage.
Yes.
And that haven't been represented because you can't do everything all at once. Yes. But find those unheard voices. I think that's actually something that happens in all sorts of diversity that we need to do, is to find those voices that don't necessarily have a platform yet.
And I also think there's a small responsibility here on those without the lived experience to almost find the inspiration or find the curiosity in the smaller things as well, like the story about getting a taxi. I watched one of the Paralympians eat a McDonald's burger with his feet and remove the pickle so eloquently. And I spent 3 months trying to do that with my feet. I got nowhere near. I couldn't even take the wrapper off. And it was this little tiny moment of inspiration that he has no idea that he left on me, but he trickled for months. And I wondered how many people would have walked past and not even noticed this incredible art form that he had. And for him, it was just common knowledge. He's just eating a burger. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. I think the themes that have come up today have been, as I say, the connection, the curiosity, the keep asking the questions. Don't be afraid to ask the questions. I think for all of us, as we move forward and bring ourselves together, the more we can keep curious, the more we can ask better. Now, traditionally, a panel host would now wrap up the hour and dissect what we talked about. But I do feel like that often us with the non-lived experience like to sum up things too much. So I'm going to pass over for the final words to our 3 panel guests, to Pat, Kobi and Kelly, to have their final moment that they would like to leave you with before the end of our panel. Pat?
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate everyone taking the time and wanting to be here to hear all of this, because that's what creates the change, is being curious. I think the opportunity to have a panel like this is awesome, because I'm sure at least one of you have learned something from this, and that's all that really matters.
Kobi?
Yeah, building on that, what's something that you can do with that curiosity that you can take back out into the world? Because it's one thing to sit in a room like this and have those ideas sparked and think, oh, that's cool. I hadn't thought of that before. But what are you going to do with that when you leave the room? Are you going to channel that and turn it into something? Because as we've been talking about today, you are the people that have the power. We are the people that have the power. We all have the power, but we all have to enact on that power to actually make real change. So I implore you, power to the people.
Ellie?
Oh, look, it's so hard to know what the last word is. I think, having heard a lot today, there's still this whole thing of, but how, but what do I do next? And one of the lessons that I've taught a number of people in my time is that someone, somewhere, somehow, the power of one is actually really, really important. If you make a difference to one person's life and existence to make that a little bit better, that's really cool. Like, that's an achievement. We're looking at how do we make things accessible in this really big kind of way, and I've been talking about do it for everyone. We're all talking about do it for accessibility is for everybody, do it for everybody. We're doing this sort of mass change thing, but actually you have the ability to impact just one person, to make a difference to one person, to hear the story of one person, and that will change their world and it will change you. Whether it's a pickle, whether it's leaving a door ajar, whatever that thing is, there is this power of one. So go find that one thing, that one person, and think about how you can make that one difference, because you just don't know. That the butterfly effect tells us that will create the karma in the world. So go pick one.
Nice. Thank you so much. Please give him a round of applause. Thank you. You're up 3.